Your Partner in Success Radio is a free business podcast with host Denise Griffitts. It's all about great stories, conversation, and context to help you move your business and life forward with actionable tips and advice from her guest experts. To listen and subscribe, just find us on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you consume your podcasts.
Good morning and welcome to Your Partner in Success Radio. I am your host, Denise Griffitts, and this podcast has been bringing you conversations with authors, entrepreneurs, mentors, and business leaders for almost 18 years now. And I am honored to be ranked in the top 1.5% of podcasts worldwide. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not because of me. It's because of my guests. They're fantastic. And today I am joined by Jeraud Norman. He's been here before. And he's here to talk about breaking free from survival mode and building a personal operating system that fuses identity work with conversational AI. We've been talking a lot about that. I've seen too many things where AI is just being plunked in there and we're supposed to believe that you wrote it. We don't. But after losing everything in a devastating accident many years ago, he rebuilt his life and business by designing systems that mirror your mindset and sustain success. He joins us now to share how high achievers unknowingly stay in survival mode and how automation supports alignment instead of anxiety, and what that really takes to install the identity of a thriving leader. And let me mention my sponsor. This episode of Your Partner in Success Radio is sponsored by Christina Wise. And that's Christina with a K and two S's, Kristina. And she is passionate about helping high-income entrepreneurs turn their business income into real personal wealth and sustainable passive income. She's the host of the Wealthy podcast and the author of Falling for Money. And you can learn more about her on her YouTube channel. Just search for Christina Wise and you'll find her. So now let's return to Jeraud. Sorry, Jeraud. I knew better too. It's been a long time since you were here last, and welcome back.
Thank you for having me. And I love your introduction. And every time I hear that, it's like you've been in the game for so long. You've been helping so many people and bringing so many entrepreneurs. You've been giving us a stage to talk. So first of all, I just want to say thank you. And I appreciate the work you've been doing and that you are allowing me to be a part of what you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And listen, when I say it, this show is not about me, not by a long shot. It's about y'all. You become my mentors in so many ways. I have hundreds of books in this room, hundreds. I have 3 bookcases. They're packed. I've got a huge basket. It's overflowing. I need more room. I'm not building a new house. It's just not going to happen. But I get to meet people like you from all over the world, and it makes my day. So thank you.
No problem. And real quick, my buddy Miha, he's the one that connected us. He said hello. I told him I'd be meeting with you today. So
Oh, yeah, Miha, we have to tell the audience about Miha. Many years ago, like I said, this thing is this thing is so old. It's old enough to drive or vote or drink. But Miha was one of the very first people who connected with me all those years ago because he's in the UK, he's in Europe. I'm not sure where he is right now. He moves around every once in a while, but I got this wonderful note where he said he had found me. He had bought or rented a new car and he didn't know what a podcast was. He'd never heard of it. And he was punching buttons and he came across my podcast, which even then was ranked very, very high. And we've been friends ever since.
Mhm. One of the coolest guys you'll ever meet right now. He's in the Philippines,
Oh,
enjoying life out there. So yeah, I'm actually going to be speaking with him tomorrow morning. So I will definitely send him your hellos. But yeah, he's one of my closest friends. Very grateful to have him in my life. Really good friend, coach, and mentor. So shout out to Miha for bringing us together because that's how I met you.
absolutely. And is he still doing dog rescue?
Yeah, he's doing a little bit of that. He's still doing fail coach, and just enjoying life altogether. But his passion is always helping other entrepreneurs. So maybe he should come back too. What do you think about that?
I think it's time. But warn him when you talk with him, tell him he's always invited. He knows that. But right now I'm booked all the way through April of next year.
Of course you are. I think I booked this thing back a few months ago. So I'm like I said, I'm glad to be here.
And we connected back again on LinkedIn. It's like,
Yeah.
"Hey, how are you doing?" Well, listen, let's get into the meat of this thing because you have so much to share, and you have said, and I've heard you say it, most high achievers think they've outgrown survival mode. They really haven't. And you say that's because their systems tell another story. What did that realization look like for you? When did you go, "Huh, what the heck is happening here?"
Oh yeah, let's drop the bombshell. So
Yeah.
you know, high, high achievers come in all shapes, form, and fashion. Sometimes it's measured by what you're doing. Sometimes it's measured by your finances. I mean, finances is a part of the scoreboard when you're in business. So for me, I was at a point. I have a marketing agency too, and I was doing at least $30,000 a month, which coming from losing everything to making $10,000 a month was a dream. Then getting to 30,000 was awesome. And then one day, this is actually in COVID. I actually remember buying a house. Like I was to the point where the business was paying me well enough where I could actually use those finances to buy a house with my business, which I know is a challenge for people. Sometimes when they first get in, being able to use your actual credit and your in the business to be able to do that. So I was happy that I made that happen. And I remember being in the room. I'm actually in my house now today instead of the office. I remember being in what was my office, which is now my daughter's room. She's taken it over, but there was no furniture in that room. I was laying on the floor. I was on the phone with a guy in Canada, and he wanted us to do some marketing for his dentistry. He had altogether between him and the people he worked with, there was like 8 to 10 locations. I can't remember exactly, but it came down to when I closed that deal, we were talking about $20,000 a month just in one deal. And I remember when I closed that deal, I was laying on the floor, no furniture. Again, we had just moved into the house, and it was almost like, oh my goodness, like it hit me right then and there that I was kind of in deep. It
Yeah, you
was,
were committed. You had to go do something with it.
yeah, yeah. So it was like putting me at $50,000 a month and realizing that the way I was doing marketing, I do feel like I'm really good at doing marketing, and my team is not just me, it's a team situation as well. But at that point, I realized that originally when I hit that first 10K, the goal was to get to a certain point and then decide what I wanted to do with my skill set and not continually just do marketing for other businesses. And I forgot that somewhere along the way. And when I got that $20,000, I swiped the card. I wasn't excited. I was actually like nervous, not because I couldn't perform, because I just felt the weight of this responsibility, and it kind of kicked me back into survival mode. If it had left by that time, I remember kind of feeling this whole survival mode feeling like on my way to $10,000 a month. That those feelings just came back, and we did perform and we did get him results, but it kind of just triggered this thing in me where I realized like I don't know what I want to do outside of marketing. I'm more than just a marketer. I was a salesperson before I even got into marketing. So I feel like I'm one of the rare folks in marketing. There's a small percentage of us that can actually sell and actually do the marketing stuff. And so my background in sales helped me to be able to do both of those things. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do and who I was outside of marketing. I didn't really understand investing that much still at that point. So I was just kind of lost. I did enough to make sure, obviously, our clients were being taken care of, but there was a clear runway to scale to $100,000 a month, and I just realized that I didn't want to go that way, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So, um, over the next few years, I kind of just made sure I had we did good by that client. We had them for a year and a half. Then he decided he wanted to get out of the marketing for the dentistry. So we decided to just part ways. And he's a still really good guy. I still catch up with him here and there. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do next. And it just kind of sent me in this, I wouldn't say like a downward spiral, but it just put me in a situation where I only wanted to take on enough to make sure that I covered what we had with the family, but I wasn't interested in growth. Yet I still wanted to make more money. So it kind of eventually it put me all the way back in survival mode, because at certain times, like when you don't do prospecting as a business owner, eventually you're not making enough money. It's like the roller coaster of prospect, prospect, prospect. Then you have to fulfill once you sell. And then what usually happens, especially when people first get started, is when they start fulfilling, they stop selling. And I kind of went back to that whole mantra, and it wasn't even intentional, but I just didn't feel right bringing on a whole bunch of clients, knowing that I didn't want to do this anymore, even though I knew I could get them the skills. And so that kind of set me on a journey to figure out what did I really want outside of helping people with their business. Because, when you do marketing for people, you really I have to sell you on the fact that I'm a good person and that I know what I'm doing and that I can help you make money. And then I'm selling for your clients. And what I realized too was that doing all this work for clients, I was losing my own voice and I wasn't able to establish it in the business world because I was always talking for everyone else, writing their ad copy, writing their video scripts, reviewing their stuff. So I just felt kind of lost for a while. It was like a 2-year period where I just really didn't know what I wanted to do. Turned down work, turned down more work than I'd like to say, but I just have this thing with me. It's if I don't feel good about what I'm doing, even though I know I can do it right, I'd rather put you in contact with somebody else and make sure that you have a better experience versus me take the money and do whatever. And the crazy thing is I'm not going to let anybody fail if they work with me. Worst case scenario, which happens maybe less than 5% of the time with my clients, is we just run out of time as far as getting results. But I'd say 95% of the people I've worked with, they've made way more than what they paid me. And that means a lot to me because it's like a Zig Ziglar line. It's like you help people get what they want and you'll get what you want. And again, I remember,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah.
I was just
So
thinking when you said Zig Ziglar, I know what he's going to say.
yeah, so that's kind of how I approach the whole marketing game. And again, I just at a certain point, it's not even always survival mode. It's just what got you to where you are isn't always going to be the thing that gets you to the next level. And what I ended up realizing was that the identity of the person that I wanted to become, I mean, mindset's one thing. I always talk about bulletproof mindset. Mine's is bulletproof. It's solid as a rock. I've worked on my mindset for years, but I realized that identity and mindset go hand in hand, but they're not necessarily the same thing. And if you don't work on shifting your identity, your mindset isn't always going to get you to the next level. And once I had that realization on that journey after kind of burning my agency down a little bit, I mean, we got to the point where we went back down to 10 and obviously we rose back up. We're doing really good now, have way more freedom. But I just realized that it was the identity portion. I didn't identify as someone who could do $100,000 a month. I didn't identify as someone who had the delegation tactics that Mihai was teaching me. He was teaching me stuff and I grasped some of it, but I didn't have the identity that I can hand this stuff off and that it couldn't be done right without me. And I didn't even know that. So again, that's when I went on this journey and started figuring out how do I get to the root of this and how do I solve this? Because hard work isn't an issue. If hard work was a thing, if that was the thing that made most people successful, I don't feel like there'd be too many people that work harder than me. Um, and at the same time, I didn't have everything I wanted. So it just forced me to look at things in a different light. And that's kind of how we ended up here.
And I'm so glad we're talking about this because I've been going through that same kind of internal, what the heck? I really have been. And, I'm moving more towards the podcasting. Oh, and I'm writing a book for the
Oh,
closers. Yeah, I'm writing a book. I was told that I had to, but my friend Ben Gay the third, because we have a Wednesday podcast called The Closers, and he's written these 2 books that there's more in the series now, but The Closers Part 1 and Closers Part 2, and they are known worldwide as the sales Bibles. And I kept saying, Ben, I'm not a salesperson. He'd smack me around the head and say, you're one of the best I've ever met because I believe what I'm saying. If I've got a
hmm.
good product and I back it, of course I'm a good sales. And I finally, had to agree with him on that. But I'm writing a book and you were talking about marketing, you and I, and it's called Podcasting as Marketing because it is.
Oh,
You're getting your voice heard. With me, I'm meeting millions of people every year. They're hearing my voice all over the world. Podcasting is where you need to be if you're in marketing at all. And I'll die on that hill, but it took me the longest kind of time to say, like you, I just don't want to do this anymore. And I fired a couple of clients. One, it was either fire her or drive to California and strangle her. It was just one of those things.
I
Yeah.
know about that, especially in
Yeah.
California.
Yeah. I was like, oh man, she was one of the most difficult people I've ever come across in my life. And I took a hit. That was a lot of money and I just swept it off the table. So I can't do this anymore. But I made a note while you were talking, and what I was hearing you say when you were describing it was that you had basically built yourself a little bit of a gilded cage in a form of you created a job. not a
Yeah.
company, a job. And I caught myself doing the same darn thing. Well, I need this, and I've got the mortgage, and I've got this, and I've got my team to pay. And after a while, I said, I am not doing this anymore. So I'm moving quite a bit. And this last final, October, November, December, I'm architecting an entire new business. I'm not dumping what I've already got, but I'm moving towards who I am and what I really bring to the table.
That's powerful. That's powerful. And you're absolutely right. I would call it a cage as well. If you build yourself into a cage and then you can't escape. And I'm a big proponent of firing clients because I don't really agree with the fact that just because you're paying me money that everything has to be the way that you say it is and that you can treat me any
Mm-hmm.
kind of way. It's like you're paying for expertise and, it's a partnership. And again, it depends on which pond you're fishing in because you can easily pick up more of the wrong clients. So I had to learn this the hard way. But if you pick up the wrong people, like I had a guy in California, I thought I was gonna have to go to Newport Beach and do the same thing. I had to fire him. So
I was born and raised there, believe it or not, but I don't ever go back. I just
why
not
not?
Newport, but San Francisco. Who would go there these days? Seriously.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Sometimes you just gotta fire these folks.
I just don't like to travel. I never have enjoyed it. And my sister kept saying, when are you going to come visit? I sent her my address. They showed up. They did. It's like,
Oh,
come on. She had
yeah.
my address, but I said, you come here. And they did. And we had the best time.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
No,
Yeah, sometimes.
I don't like to travel at all. So
Well, yeah, I mean, you got your family you got to take care of. What would they do without you if you left too long? You can't bring them all with you.
I know I got my cats and my dog and my microphone. I'm happy that I've got it all. But well, you had that, and let's go back to that moment when your old world, your identity collapsed. What happened that day? When you said, "I don't want to do this. I don't want to be in this cage. I don't want to have a gilded job," because that's what had, and we all create that without even really understanding what we're doing. Was there a
Mhm.
moment where you just said, "Oh, hell no"?
There was. It didn't happen that day. It was almost like you said, the awareness. But then, like integrity wise, like if someone puts money in my hand, I'm gonna do everything in my power to make sure that they're winning. So,
Absolutely.
obviously, we took care of business, and it was like a slow sabotage. It's like how do I put this? It's like we all have thoughts that go through, they say there's so many thoughts that go through your head. And I'm not a psychologist. I didn't go to college for any of that stuff. I barely even went to college. Right. But we have all these thoughts that run in our head on autopilot. And then we have the thoughts that we're aware of that run through our head as well. And sometimes, like, because we don't speak these things out loud, which I didn't do back then, it's almost like I thought I solved the challenge and I thought it through, but it never went away. And I'm a big proponent that people have personal personal problems that show up in their business. And a lot of times it'll keep showing up in different ways. So for me, looking back, I didn't see it in the moment. It was like I literally just sabotaged myself. I wouldn't prospect. I fired the right clients. I don't think that was sabotage because when you hold on to the wrong ones, it keeps you from getting the right ones. And if I'm thinking about you before I go to bed in my dreams and when I wake up, then you got to go. That's my mindset on that. Right.
Yep.
But
Or when you text your best friend a Bible, I mean, the whole day, and I finally said to her, "Do not respond to me. I'm ranting." She said, "I know." But
okay.
I got it all written down, and I got it out of my system, and then I fired this client.
You got to get it out. Writing is one way. Um, Using your voice is another. And I realized back then, again, I didn't do either. I mean, I would journal, but it wouldn't be about those things. It was more or less about where
Right.
I was going. But it was just a slow sabotage of not prospecting, which a lot of people run into. Um, and just, mm, I don't have one of those voices that tell me not to do things. If it ever shows up, I just do whatever it tells me to do, not to do. I just do it. So it's almost like, yeah, it was just a slow sabotage of losing revenue, being okay with it, and knowing that I had enough to take care of the family. I had money saved up, and that I just was like, I need time to figure out what I wanted to do. But then the struggle was, especially when you operate in survival mode, which is a broad stroke, but just giving you guys some ideas of what that's like for me. Operating in survival mode is not being able to take a second and rest. I felt like I couldn't rest. I felt like I always had to go. And
Been
I
there,
was
done
like,
that.
yeah. So you sit back and you're like, all right, I'm gonna give myself time to figure out what I want to do. And then you're sitting there and you don't figure it out, obviously, right away. And then it's like, well, I'm gonna get busy and I'm gonna do this. And then I stopped again prospecting and started getting busy with other things and finding other things to get into in the business that didn't necessarily need me. And eventually it got to the point where I shrunk my team. Like I said, we had a few clients that were allowing me to take care of my bills and keep my family from having to worry about things, and especially compared to when we lost our house and all that stuff. And it just felt so long. I mean, it was like a 2-year period. I just didn't know. And it's just, I felt, if anything, I felt ashamed and guilty of the fact that I wasn't making more money to put us in a better situation, especially now that I understand investing. It was like, you're doing your family a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. So there was like that and battling that self-talk, which if it comes up, I handle it. But it's like, if I didn't speak that out loud, which is, what we'll get to is how I feel like speaking it out loud helps. It's like I thought I handled it, but then it just went to the back of my head. Like, again, I'm not a psychologist, but let's just say the thought circled to the back. And then it just kept showing up in different ways. And then it would show up as it once was. And then I'd be like, oh, that's here again. Oh, don't worry about that. I'll take care of that. In my mind, there's nothing that can hold me back. But I realize the only thing that can hold me back is myself. And with myself, I mean, it's the thoughts that I don't know that are running in the background, that are running the show, that are keeping me stuck. And I just started attacking that. And that's how I ended up shifting. We still have the agency. We still do well with that. But lately, what I've been doing is I built a system that helps me to figure all this stuff out. And it's been helping other people figure these things out. And it's like, once you say it out loud and you understand what thoughts are running through your head, once you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. And it's like, the thing I like about the speaking out loud part is you can hear yourself tell yourself your truths, and you can also hear yourself tell yourself your lies. And once you start hearing those, especially if you're all about making progress and getting better, you're not, the lies you're telling yourself, you didn't actually agree to. They're just things that are implanted in you. So it's kind of wild how it all happens.
And I love what you're saying about speaking out loud. I have this system that I created. Apparently, I don't even know when it happened. I've done it all of my life, so I'm guessing I was quite young. But when I don't sleep well, and I'm not an insomniac. I just don't require much sleep. And honestly, I don't really like to sleep. It cuts into my reading time. I get kind of resentful about it. So I'll read anything, including the back of a cereal box if that's all that's handy. But, you know, when I know that I can feel myself go, "Ooh, I think I'm going to go to sleep," I will look up at the ceiling fan because there's aliens up there or God or angels or somebody out there listening to me. And could be all of the above. But I will say my prayers out loud because somebody is listening, and that somebody is probably you. So I will say my prayers out loud, and then I will have a brief discussion with my subconscious. And I'll say, listen, I'm really kind of stuck on this, or something happened during the day. I don't quite know how to address it or think about it, whatever it is. And I will turn that over to my subconscious literally for review. And I'm telling you, 3:18, doesn't matter if I went to bed or sleep at 1 o'clock in the morning, which is common actually. I will wake up at 3:18 and there it is. And I'll, turn on the light, write it down. And then every time I'm able to go back to sleep during that cycle, I'll start the whole process all over again. So my poor subconscious may get a beating 3 or 4 times a night, but there's always an answer.
That's great. How do you do what you do with hardly any sleep?
I've always been this way. I just don't sleep. I never have. If I sleep 4 hours in a row, I'm groggy for the rest of the day. It just
Oh,
chews me up, yeah. So I tend to sleep 2 hours, maybe 3, then I may get up and make a gumbo. I've been known to do that. Or I may go to the website, yeah. And, when I'm ready to go back to sleep, I go back to sleep. I've been this way all of
do
my life.
you like? I not to make the whole thing about sleep. So do you take naps? I struggle with taking naps. I'd like to learn how to take a nap.
No, I don't. I had no. When I was a kid, when I was young, I was in kindergarten, and I was always in trouble because I did not wanna take a nap. You know, you're giving me, milk and graham crackers in a thin blanket. You're telling me to go to sleep. I don't wanna go to sleep. Let me read. And my kindergarten teacher called my little bitty mom. My kindergarten teacher was this Amazonian Germanic woman, and she didn't believe that I could read, 5 years old. And I was reading at 3. And she got my mom in there and said, Denise won't take a nap. She just wants to read. And I don't believe she can read. And my mom looked way up at her and said, have you tested her? Well, no, I do
For
the
real.
reading. Yeah. And this woman said, Mrs. Keller, I'll never forget her. She said, no, I read to them. And she said, Denise can read. And the woman said, well, why? And my mother said, because we didn't tell her she couldn't. And that was the end of that.
Yeah, like you didn't think to like see if she could read before she called her mom.
No, she should have never called my mom. She was little, but she could jump like a flea. So that was her first mistake. But I don't know, sleeping is just not important to me. But no, I don't nap. It's just, and I don't get sick, which people say, God, you must have a strong constitution. I do. I never get sick.
Well, if it's working, if it's
It
working for you.
works. Yeah, it does work. But I'm like you, napping is, nah, my brain is too busy. It's a squirrel cage in there.
Yeah, it's hard to take a nap. I mean, I guess if I rerouted my identity, I could become the person that takes naps. But right now, I'm good. But I never would take naps either. So I get what you're saying.
And I wanted to go back to your operating system because I think that's kind of what we're talking about in a roundabout kind of way. Tell us about your operating system because you describe it as being something that's much deeper than routines or motivation. What does that look like to you in daily life?
For me, yeah, it's definitely much deeper than both of those. And like when I first got started in business, it was like I remember being in a real estate conference. I had actually just the whole story about the 18-wheeler truck. I told it on the last episode, but I had got
Yeah.
my surgery December 2012, and these guys came to town, and they always have the things on the radio where the guys are like, "We'll do real estate investing. We'll teach you how to do it." So I went to one of those events, and I was in there on crutches, and that was the in my mind, I was like, well, I can't go back to work and I'm going to do this and I'm not going to go back to work, which I ended up not going. I did go back to the shipyard for maybe 3 months, but long story short, that was the first time I was ever introduced to a motivational video. And it almost made me cry in the audience because I was like, wow, this is powerful. So then whatever the guy said in the video, he was like, don't sleep, don't eat until you're successful. You got to want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe. And I was like, I could do all that stuff. I'll give up anything, except for the kids. So the motivation aspect, like, I did all that stuff, sacrificed this, and that. And again, it got me to a certain level. But to switch into like how the operating system shows up in daily life and why it's not just those things, it's because there's always another level of what we're looking to get to. Some people are comfortable where they are. And if you are, there's nothing wrong with that. Um, Same thing for if you have a business versus work a job. You shouldn't shame people who work jobs just because you have a business and vice versa. But if there's something that you want to do and you're not getting it done, it's something that Bob Proctor called the knowing doing gap. And it's like, even as kids, you like, your parents like, better, right? And you're like, I do. Then why did you do it? And you don't know. Back when I didn't know, saying I didn't know would have got me dealt with and I would have got in trouble. But sometimes you really just don't know. And it's the same thing for business owners. Um, you know what to do, but you're not doing it, yet you're not successful. So what the operating system does is it gets to the root of why you're not doing it. A big challenge that most people face in business, whether it's in our line of business or it's in any business, is really the prospecting and sales aspect. And even if we take it a step further, some people are scared to do sales, but I don't even think sales is really the issue. Especially like the conversations I've been having all week. I've been talking to other agency owners, helping them with the same thing. They're like, I don't really like sales, but if I get on a sales call, I like my chances. And if I feel like I can help them, I'll fight for it. Maybe I don't have all the sales techniques or whatever, but I'm cool. It's the work of getting people to the sales call, which is the hardest thing. And I'm not talking about sending out reminder sequences to make sure that they show up. It's the activities that get them there. Um, what do those activities look like? And it's something as simple as, for my LinkedIn people, I don't really like doing this, but it is part of the game. I'm going to send 10, let's just say it's 10 direct messages out today. I'm going to make sure I make a post today. I'm going to make sure I cold email today. I'm going to make sure I door knock today, or I'm going to walk into some places. I'm going to make sure I cold call, those things. Now, obviously, some of those things like cold calling, that's like the last thing that most people want to do. But something as simple as sending a DM on LinkedIn or a private message, that's easy. So if you know you could do that, and let's just say the goal was one a day and you're not doing it, there's something that's holding you up. And usually what it is I can't even say usual what it is because it's different for different people. Like a young lady I talked to the other day, she had control issues. A gentleman I just talked to this morning that just joined in with me, it wasn't control issues, it was distractions. It's like he has the opportunity to build the business, but it's almost like he's not building the business because of fulfillment, the fulfillment cycles. Like if I grow more, then I have to fulfill more. And it's like instead of solving that challenge, we'll keep finding ways to be busy and not do the thing. And we don't even realize how simple it is to do that thing and understand why we're not doing that thing. So what the operating system does is I get you to basically let all that go. Because the other part is most people in business don't really have an outlet where they can literally just talk about everything they want to talk about without someone cutting them off. For instance,
That's
Miha is
true.
probably,
I know that is so true. Keep going.
oh, no, no, no. If you have some, go ahead and interject some more. I'm cool with that.
No. I was just agreeing with you because I see it all the time. And often I'll be listening to somebody's podcast or because I read and I listen. I don't watch TV. Don't hand me a remote. I'll lose it. But often, way too often, and I think I'm being hypercritical, but many times I'm saying, would you just shut up? Let them speak.
Yeah, they don't have that. Most people don't. I mean, that's on the podcast, right? Never mind like an actual
Yeah.
coaching relationship. So Miha was my coach first, right? And we became really good friends by him coaching me. And so one thing about Miha is Miha really cares. Um, it's hard to say that people don't care, but then you run across people who really do care. And he's one of those guys that will go to the end of the earth to help you achieve whatever goal that you want. And it's really on you how hard you want to go at it. And he's going to support you anyway. So it took me a while to open up to him. And a lot of people feel like that way with coaching. It's like you pay someone to coach you and then you don't share everything with them. It's almost like going to therapy. You pay for a therapist if you go to one, and then you lie to them when you're there, or you don't tell them anything and you expect to get better. So it's a similar situation with coaching. So the other part to that too is it's rare to have a coach like Miha that you can actually divulge this information to, and he'll actually sit and listen, right? And even then, he still has his limits. But compared to most coaches, it's like, nope, stop doing this. Like I had some coaches that were like, you're overthinking. Just stop. Whenever that comes up, just stop. And I'm like, all right, cool. Um,
Yeah, that
and
doesn't work.
it doesn't work. And they meant well. They meant well, but it's like, okay, I didn't know what I was doing. So even with a guy like Miha, and I trust Miha, there's just things that I didn't tell him. One, because I wasn't aware. Two, I guess, and I look back, and again, this is weird for me to say, but possibly even fear of being judged, knowing that he wouldn't judge me, but that's just that was insecurities in myself, and I didn't know I had those. So what the operating system allows you to do, it allows you to rant and rave or riff, as I like to say, and get everything out of your head. You have to speak it out loud so you can see it, get it out of your head. And what the operating system does is it helps to mirror what you said back to you, and it gives you some feedback on what you're saying, how you're saying it, and the effects of it. And what's able to happen is you have blind spots that are going on that you can't see, and it starts to act as a mirror to show you what's going on. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And sometimes the correlation between you prospecting your business, like I said, could be a control issue. You want to control everything, and you want to let control, and you want to control everything. And at the same time, you want to grow, you want to have freedom. But those two things, somewhat they go together and somewhat they don't. It comes to a point where you have to change your relationship with control. You have to change your relationship with what freedom looks like. And essentially what the OS does is it just literally takes all that information, gives it back to you in a way that you can understand it. And then at that point, you just have this, like a good example is, I remember when we first lost the house, and then I moved into an apartment after we were homeless for a little bit, and then moved in with my mom, and then we got an apartment. I was making a little bit of money with the agency, and my wife's her father, he got us a new washer machine. And the guy who installed the washing machine was just like, hey, don't let the lid close because don't slam the lid, because if you slam the lid, there's a mechanism in here and it'll break and then you'll have to get it repaired. And I was just like, wow, like just that little bit of understanding changed everything for me, because I know as a kid, I was just letting the thing slam. I didn't think nothing of it. So just understanding one small piece could lead to such a big breakthrough. And that washer lasts us for so long. So what the OS does, it just helps you to find these little things and how they're tied together so it can make sense to you. And then once you understand how it makes sense, it's almost like it can go away. So overthinking was one of those things for me. Like I said, the coach said, whenever you do that, stop. It wasn't me who said that. So in my operating system, one day it mirrored back to me that I was overthinking. And I was like, I'm tired of hearing this, because in my mind, I don't overthink. So I was like, what did I say? Because again, I'm divulging all this information to it. What did I say that made you think that I overthink? And once it broke down my language patterns of what I was saying and showing me why I was overthinking, it was so clear. And I was like, if I had known this, I would have stopped overthinking years ago. So from the day that it showed me that, within 2 days, I had eliminated what I like to call the loop, and I don't overthink anymore. It's just gone. Same thing for survival mode. I thought that survival mode started from that car accident in 2012 when I, started having all those financial challenges, and it turned out survival mode for me. I was born into it. My grandmother is from Trinidad, and she brought our family, my mom, over here when she was 2. And she had to do a lot of things to get to this country. It was like really bad times over there. And my mom got pregnant with me when she was 17. And my grandmother tried to off me. She tried to push my mom down the steps and all these things. And God bless her soul, she just passed not too long ago. And I remember when I was like 7 or 8, she would apologize to me. Like, I'm so sorry, Sonny. And then she would just break down and cry because my
Oh
mom was in a
my.
shelter. Yeah, she was in a shelter for so long. And I didn't think nothing of it. But then as I'm talking to my OS, the kind of questions it prompts to go deeper, I told that story. And then it said, man, like, it's not the accident. Like, you were born into a shelter. You were born into all these different things. So survival mode has been a way of life for you your entire life. And as someone who just turned 41 at the time, realizing that this is where it all started, I was like, wow. And it just opened up my eyes. And in that moment, I was able to let go the energy of being in survival. I'll never be in survival mode again. Not unless the world's coming to an end and we're all screwed. That's the only way. And even then, I can't even see me reverting back to that. So that's what the operating system does. It shows you what's going on and what's running in the background so that you can let it go. So you can shift into the version of yourself that you want to be versus what you are now. Because the person that you are right now, more than likely, is not going to be able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. You have to shift into a different version of yourself. And mindset is good and it's great. It's got me here. But at a certain point, if you just run on mindset, it's like driving a car with an emergency brake on. You'll get to your location, but it just makes things a lot tougher to get there if you get what I'm saying.
I do. And I love what you're saying about, you just let it go. And then talking out loud. I do talk out loud. I live alone. I'm a highly committed introvert. I've been married. I'll never do that again. Thank you very much. Been there, done it. I did my time. So, but, and I'm also an autodidact. So I need to break things. I need to examine it. I need to tear it apart, put it back together and say, I didn't like that result. Let me go do it again. So I'm always busy. But like you, I try not to get stuck in it. I really do. But going back to talking out loud, I do it a lot. I talk to the cats. I talk to my pecan trees. I talk to my cupboards because that's how I process. I'm talking out loud. I'm hearing myself. And every once in a while, I'll catch myself just sliding down the refrigerator door because I'm laughing at myself because I'm an idiot. you know? And so you have to keep a sense of humor with it. But speaking out loud, even if it's just to yourself, and I think actually I'm going to take that back, not just to yourself, particularly to yourself, I think is one way of breaking down barriers that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, yeah. And that explains why you are who you are, because you're very self aware, and it's not just in your head. It's in your head, and you get it out. And I think
Yeah.
enough people don't do that. I know I didn't. Um, the word you used too was process. So it was funny enough when I first started on this journey of creating an operating system. My wife will say that, or I hear people say I have to process it. And I realized I never stopped to process anything. It was almost like instant reaction. I'd think about it in the moment, and that was my process. And that process wasn't always going to lead me in the right direction. And again, that talking it out loud, and it's just like you don't realize the commitments, the contracts, the agreement you've made with yourself and with other people, um, that you have going on, that you tied yourself to, and you don't even realize it. And then you're working in this other direction to get this thing, but you've already committed. And then if we get deep, like, and I'm not Tony Robbins or anything, but he knows more about this stuff. But the subconscious mind, like our body is our subconscious mind, so it's not going to allow us to do the things that go against our beliefs. And essentially what I'm getting at is with this operating system helps to change your beliefs so you can change your identity, and the beliefs that you're changing, you don't even know you have. So that's what it helps you get to the root of, and it helps you to process these things. So, yeah, I speak to myself out loud a lot now, and it's really just been in the past year. And I'm like, I would have been doing this a while. I mean, I can't turn back the hands of time, but I think all those things I went through was meant for me to go through so that I can create this thing, because it was the thing that I needed. And now I realize it could help so many people. And, we help people make money in the marketing agency. I mean, I would say for sure. I mean, I would, $100 million in revenue for our clients, I would say for sure. And that's cool. I like that because I know that I've earned the money that I've made by making sure the people who pay me make more money. And I always like doing that, but it's not the same as helping someone break through and understand what's keeping them back. And when I'm doing calls with people, a lot of times tears come up. It's not always them too. Sometimes I'll cry with them, just because it's just like, it's so powerful. And I feel like everything I went through led to these moments that I can help more people overcome these things. And yeah, like the operating system's not guaranteed to make you X amount of dollars. It's just guaranteed to help you get out of your own way so that you can figure out what you want. And for the people I've been working with, it's making more money has definitely been one of those things. Losing weight, figuring out why they couldn't, overcome their health challenges. A big one that I've got with a few guys is they've stopped drinking. They were drinking and being destructive with themselves, even though they were functioning. It wasn't like they were alcoholics, but they were drinking and it was kind of ruining things. And once they were able to get to the root of that and talk things out in a way, and it's private too. Like I get on there and I guide people. I don't do it every time they use it, but they were able to release that. And it's just like for someone to tell me that they're a different person and that their wife sees that they're a different person since they've been using this operating system. It's just like those feelings are priceless. And I feel like that's what I didn't know what my calling was. Like being good at marketing and sales is awesome. You'll never truly be broke if you understand those concepts, but it's nothing like helping someone overcome themselves and being a part. And for me, I am so grateful and appreciative that they're allowing me to be a part of their story. Not to mention, I'm still writing my own. So it's it's so hard to put into words because I don't really get excited about too many things outside of my wife and kids. But with this, it's like it's the most excited I feel like I've been in my entire life.
And I hear that in your voice. And listen, I'm right there with you. When I say I'm an introvert, I'm not kidding. I'm alone by design, by, about 89, 90% of the time by design. I'm happiest when I'm all by myself. I think, I read, I'm all happy. Last night I was telling you in the green room, I've been having a huge problem with GoDaddy, and nobody, I can hear people going, "Oh God, yeah, we know." And then in the middle of all that last night, my dishwasher backed up, both sinks backed up, so I was cursing and mopping a lot. But at some point, I almost picked up a rhythm and I made up some new curse words. So I was actually having kind of a good time. I got the baseboards cleaned. It's like, well, you might as well look at the bright side. But the point of all that is don't wallow in it. Whatever's happening is happening. Take care of it. Watch how you react to it and decide, is this appropriate? Well, maybe not. The cursing probably wasn't, but nobody could hear me. The windows were closed. But still, it was at some point you just have to go, okay, I'm just going to enjoy it. And I did. I still have mopping up to do. I still have to, you know, unbolt the U bend or whatever it is. I've got instructions, but I'm going to make it happen. I'm an autodidact. I have to break things and fix it. So that's the rest of my day in a nutshell. But going back to what you're talking about with the subconscious, if your subconscious is saying, oh, bleh, Denise, ooh, you're going to guess what you're going to do for the rest of the day? Oh, no, I don't do that. I refuse.
Mhm.
But let's
And
talk about your operating system because I know you're coaching people and we've only got about 15 more minutes. So tell us about that. You talk about installing the version of yourself who's already on the other side. What does that mean? And how can we begin that version upgrade today?
what I mean by that is just really, it's almost like some of the basic stuff that we all heard about through personal development. You have to understand what you want and who you want. So the first thing is truly understanding what you want. And one thing I realized too with a lot of coaching, and it's not done intentionally, is like, for instance, I had a coach that gave me, we were using a thing called a life script, which is similar to what a lot of people do, vision board, et cetera.
All
They
right.
give you they give you there so that as a model, so you can make your own. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I realized that I do, and a lot of people do, is they'll literally take what was given to them and they'll just edit it to their liking versus literally starting from scratch and building it.
So
Um,
they're not taking it as what it should be, which is a suggestion.
Yes. And it's again, it's not the coach's fault. So my goal, even with this system, because this system essentially turns into a coach, therapist, what have you, I still believe in having like actual coaches, because I just do. So yeah, I think first of all, it's understanding what you truly want and what that means to you and why. And again, not just thinking about it, but actually speaking it. And when you speak it, understanding when you start speaking it, understanding how it sounds to you. Is it a truth? Is it a lie? And if that's what you really want, cool. And then the other part to that too is being okay with this doesn't have to be the final version. So again, first thing is deciding what you really want and why you want it. And then once you do, honestly, it's the system is built up with a bunch of different exercises and questions. So these exercises and questions are just different things that I've learned over the years from different programs I've been a part of. So some of the things I've learned from Mihan, some of the paces he's walked me through, there's a part of that in the system. Some of the things that stood out to me the most and that had the biggest impact on me, I've done it in my own way. Or again, I was big into Think and Grow Rich. So there's some elements to Think and Grow Rich, but it's not just strictly Think and Grow Rich. It's almost like all the things that I've learned over time, which for the most part, a lot of things that we learn when it comes to marketing and mindset, it was somebody else said something and then it was done a different way. I've basically took all those different things and put my own spin on it and done it my own way and used what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And I put it into a system, which is AI, and it basically walks you through the paces. And it's super easy. The only thing you have to be willing to do is read, read the question and read the prompt as you will and say it out loud. And you have to be also willing to commentate. So, what I mean by that is like when we were in school, and I'm looking for a better analogy. So, maybe you can help me with this. But when we were in school, we used to have to proofread papers, right?
All right.
That was part of English. So, when you proofread a paper, do you make changes when you get to the end, or do you make marks and suggestions along the way?
Along the way.
So what I get people to do is I get them to do that when they're in the system and they're using it is because what happens is if they don't, they start summarizing. So if I had a paragraph or two in this, I'm reading it, yada, yada, yada. If I go back and answer questions and I give my feedback afterward, I'm summarizing. I still feel like it'll get you further along. But the biggest breakthroughs I've had is when I gave real time feedback in the moment. So like one of the first questions that the systems asks you is like, who are you today? And then the next question is, what transformation are you chasing? And then the next one is on a scale of 1 to 10. So if I went back and try to summarize that after reading everything, it's just not going to be as deep as it was. I might get to that first question is, who am I today? And I'll say, well, I'm a father, I'm a husband, and I'm a business owner. And I keep going down this path. And then I start talking about the good things that are happening to me, the challenges that are to come to me. For me, it's like, if it takes me a whole 10 minutes to get through that one question, the way I'm guiding people is take that 10 minutes. What thoughts are coming to your head as you're reading these questions or if you're as you're reading the insights? If you're whatever thoughts are coming into your head, I want you to stop reading and I want you to say those thoughts, because those thoughts that are popping up, those are the things that never get said, that just keep circling around in your head. And those are the things that are potentially keeping you where you don't want to be. That's the old identity. You're letting the old identity win if you don't speak those and get those out. And once I get people understanding that, and this is just for general and AI anyway. So let's say you don't even use my system. It's the same principle. And Miha was one of the people who taught me this: speak to the AI and versus typing. Now, some people are still going to type, but you don't usually talk as good as you type. And all the extra thoughts that you have in your head, they get weeded out when you type because you usually don't ever write those down. We have to get as much of it out as possible. And
Good
then essentially,
point. I'm writing that down. Good point. Okay, keep going.
yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. And then the system does the work. We have 8 modules, and each module has X amount of questions in it. I don't even know off the top of my head. And it's all built to stretch you. And what starts to happen is when you start going through these questions and you start getting feedback, because what the AI can do, I can't do. The way the AI can coach you, all I did was I took all of the knowledge that I've attained over the years, and I've gave the AI guardrails to keep you in a certain, because AI is like this all-knowing thing that can do anything. I gave it a specific parameters on which to operate in. And inside those parameters, it literally starts to help you see the things that are operating in the background. Something as simple, like I was talking to a guy this morning who came on board with me. He was saying he wants freedom. He's living his best life. And then at the same time, he was saying that he can't necessarily travel because in his business right now, he has to do deliveries the entire day. And
Oh,
he's been looking to solve the challenge of the deliveries, but in his business, there's cash involved. So he's looking to figure that out. So he's doing the things to figure it out, but then he can't be free. He can't go travel until he figures that out. And he's making pretty good money in his business. And then essentially what we got to, the root cause was control and distraction.
I just started to say, I was going to interrupt you. Control. That was exactly the word that I was going to say.
Yeah. So it's control. All right, cool. A lot of people, like I was talking to a young lady yesterday and him, like, I got a control problem. Cool. What's the root of that control problem? And then the second part is I'll be like, hey, this is shout out to Miha again. We don't call them problems. I look to eliminate that word as much as possible. And I know I didn't once on here. I have a control challenge. And then the next thing is like the system will help you to change your relationship with control, because control is not a bad thing. It's just your current relationship with it. Your current relationship with control is based on the identity that you currently have. So if we can work on the next version of you, does the next version of you have the same control relationship with control, or is it a different relationship with control? Because the people that have what you want, they have control too. And that's why they have what they want. Their relationship's just different. So we just keep diving deeper and deeper and deeper. And then maybe at this point, let's say I was working with you, that's all you needed to be able to see it and let it go. And if that's not the case, then we dive deeper to figure out what's keeping you in that mindset. And at that point, it's almost like you shift your energy. And what one of my guys said, especially the one that stopped drinking, he was just like, I feel it in my chest. Every time I level up, it's like I feel a surge in my chest and I feel like I'm a different person. And that's pretty much what we're aiming for. And you just start acting and operating differently, because usually it's not the outputs. It's usually not the work ethic well, some of y'all are lazy. But I would say the majority you listening to Denise are not.
Not
It's usually
lazy.
not
No.
it's not the output. It's usually just something that, again, running in the background and getting past that surface level. It's almost like even with sales, you have to go a few levels deep when you're asking the questions. Why? 3 levels deep, 7 levels deep, whatever it may be. It's the same thing. You got to do it yourself, and you got to do it. Again, you don't have to, but I strongly suggest you do it in a talking out loud version, because it helps you get there so much faster.
I agree with you. And while you were talking about control. I wrote down the word can't. When I hear people say that, it just breaks my heart, because listen, can't, you're telling yourself you can't do something. I don't use that word. It's not allowed in my vocabulary. I will use the word won't, because I'm pigheaded. And if I'm not going to do something, I'm not going to do it. But I never say I can't. Now, can I swim? No. Somebody dumped me in a pool when I was a baby, and I never quite got over that. But I don't say, oh, I can't swim. I just say, well, I won't swim. And that's the end of that.
I
So
like that.
there's that. Get rid of the word can't out of your vocabulary. I think you're going to lose a lot of mental weight if you just get rid of that word.
And try. A lot of people who say they're trying, they're actually doing it. Like, I'm going to try to do
Yeah,
this. And I'm like, aren't you doing it? They were like, yeah. I'm like, then you're creating a disconnect with yourself because you're doing something,
yep.
but you're talking about you trying. It's weird.
That's exactly right. So watch how you're speaking to yourself. There are those trigger words, and I hate that term, trigger words, but they're there. Can't, try. I use, yeah, I'm doing it. I may not be doing it well, but I'm still doing it. I'm going to do
Exactly.
it. Yeah, I'm probably going to say bad words while I'm doing it. But
Exactly.
it works. Once you start something and you keep on going, you put that foot forward, it's kind of hard to stop because now ooh, I can do this.
Exactly. Exactly. I like the won't one too. So, I mean, can't. So,
Yeah,
when I'm on the
yeah.
calls with people, I do look for try. So I'm going to start looking for the can't. I believe naturally I don't say that, but I didn't even realize I wasn't doing that until you brought it up the way you brought it up. And I've heard that before a long time ago.
It's important because the minute you tell yourself you can't do something, guess what? And I'll tell you when I found this out. I was young. I was getting ready to go into choir because I sang when I was a kid. I was in school and and I did not like the choir teacher. I just never did like him. There was something about him that gave me the icks. And he was saying, well, we're going to learn to read music today. Guess what? I never learned because I instantly rejected it. And I used in my head, oh, I can't do
Mhm.
that. I never learned how to read music. And I recognized very quickly that I had just sabotaged myself.
Yeah, it's the power of words. Sometimes it's the simplest words that it's almost like, again, it's like a contract. And it's like most people
Yeah,
don't think of
yeah.
it that deep, but it's like you're creating contract. I think it was one book that I read that this is when I was in 2013. I was in network marketing thinking I was about to make it big there. And not that you can't, but I wasn't about to do that in that moment. Just thought I was. But I was learning a lot about personal development. And one of the guys who was like one of the first millionaire guys I hung out with, and, a guy who didn't grow up. I mean, we weren't like dirt poor, but we didn't have much. And then to lose everything. And so you're hanging around a guy who makes millions of dollars. You're just working on soaking that all in so that you can just provide better for your family. And he told me to read this book called The Four Agreements. And
Oh, I have that book.
yeah, it's a good one. So if you guys haven't read that book, I would definitely check that out. It's been a while since I read it, but being impeccable with your word, I believe, was the first
Mhm.
agreement.
Ruiz, yep. And you're talking about Dr. Napoleon Hill. My mentor, my very dear friend Ben Gay III was mentored by Dr. Napoleon Hill the
Oh,
last
really?
the last 2.5 years of his life. And he spent a lot of time. And, when Ben and I are talking, I feel like I'm getting God winks directly from Napoleon Hill. But one thing that he said, and a lot of people have read Think and Grow Rich, can't quite grasp or haven't really read the book in a way that it makes sense to them. But what he says multiple times in that book is take action. And that
Yeah.
seems to, a lot of people seem to miss that step.
Yeah. It's like I guess the last thing I'll say is like one thing that I realized is, and this was for myself, you could take relentless action, but then you don't think enough. And that was one thing that Miyah pointed out to me is this like, he's like, you're special in a way that you'll do the thing you don't want to do, regardless if you don't want to do it. And most people can't do that. He said, but if you slowed down and actually reflected on what you did, what worked and what didn't work, you would move so much faster. So that was one of the big things I picked up. And that's part of the system too, is like the daily reflection. Three things that went well, three things that didn't go well. For the things that didn't go well, what could you do differently? And what are the actions you're going to take to make sure that that happened? Something as simple as just scheduling something on the calendar or what have you.
Right.
Um,
Exactly. And we are out of time. Tell me very quickly I can't believe this hour went so fast. Where can people connect with you and learn more about your operating system?
you guys can connect with me with on LinkedIn, Jeraud Jeraud Norman, um, Instagram Jeraud_gave. It also, if you guys want, I have it's called findyourblindspots.com. That's the website for this operating system. I don't want to send you to the marketing stuff. If you go there, all it asks you is for your name and your email, and it'll send you a link to the GPT we created in ChatGPT that'll walk you through a process of finding out what's running in the background. And the only way to again, find out what's truly going on is to be true. There's directions in it. It walks you through step by step. I have a video walkthrough, walking one of my best friends through it and the realizations that he had in real time, kind of threw him on the spot right before we hung out. So I would urge you guys to go and try that. If you do it, yeah, I got your email. I'll hit you up on email. But if you don't like the stuff we're talking about, just unsubscribe. It's cool. But if you're into that and you want to figure out what's holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself, I strongly suggest you give it a shot.
Well, listen, thank you for spending time with me today. I really appreciate it. And to our audience, what an incredible conversation with Jeraud Norman. His story is such a powerful reminder that survival mode can wear 1,000 disguises. We do it all day, every day, I think, sometimes. Overthinking, busyness, that's a big buzzword these days, and rightfully so. Even high standards or impossible standards. But true success begins when we begin the upgrade to the operating system behind it all. So if today's episode resonated with you, take a moment to share it with someone who's ready to stop surviving and start leading from their next level identity. And you can connect with him. He just shared all of that on his website, findyourblindspots.com, on LinkedIn, Instagram, and I believe TikTok, and they're all in the show notes. So remember to subscribe to your Partner in Success Radio so you never miss a conversation that is geared to help you grow your business, your systems, and yourself. So thank you for listening. And until next time, stay focused, stay inspired, and keep building the version of you that's already on the other side. I'm Denise Griffitts. Thank you for listening, and I will see you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Jeraud, thank you so much. It has been a genuine pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. Tell me hi.
Get your voice heard. If you would like to launch your own far-reaching podcast, contact Denise Griffitts at yourofficeontheweb.com and go to the podcast tab.